And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon. The John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs across the glass.
You don't have to worry about not doing the time check until we get a station in Nevada.
Well, that's a problem I'd like to have.
Hey, look at this. Michael writes in at johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. Great news that you're going to be broadcasting during the day up in the Bay Area. We're moving just north of San Francisco this summer, so it's great that we'll still be able to listen live to you up there.
That's right. You can have some sourdough with your lunch. You can enjoy the fog. Maybe some Ghirardelli chocolate. There's lots to do up there.
Now I'm jealous.
You know my favorite thing about food in San Francisco?
What's that?
I love dim sum. And they have some great dim sum spots in San Francisco.
It's one of the best Chinatowns in the whole country. And unlike the Chinatown in Los Angeles, it's kind of safe. Although just don't go to Portsmouth Square because we found out what everyone does there when they need to use the bathroom.
If you want the details, just listen to the podcast. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is an analyst with the Motley Fool, who you can find online at fool.com. And if this sheet is right, it looks like he changed his Twitter handle to Conviction Hold. Is that right, Jason?
Hey, John. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I did. I changed it a little while back, and it was just a little play on, in my business. I mean, analysts were always making calls, and sometimes it's a conviction buy or it's a conviction sell. And, the way I invest, the way we invest here at the Fool is we like buying companies and hanging on to them for a long time. So when that handle Conviction Hold came up, I thought, hey, why not? Let's go for a change here, and Conviction Hold stuck, and it's just really it's a reminder to the real money is made in the holding.
Jason Moser, thank you so much for stopping by. Well, now I understand it. I was looking at the sheet thinking, is this a typo or do we have this right? So apparently we had it right. So thank you so much for stopping by. Now, speaking of the stock market, I have just stopped looking at my portfolio because I just want to cry every time I see it. And I've pretty much just stopped looking at it for the last couple of months. Are you freaking out as much as I am, or do you think this is just a temporary dip?
No, I'm not freaking out, and I will say it's very understandable, right? I mean, investing our money is one of the most important things in our lives, right? It enables so much of what we want to do, and so it's very understandable to get emotional. And I think when you look at the way the market has performed this year, it's only down a little bit less than 2%, right? I think the key, what really has been problematic, has been the volatility, right? It seems like every day there's a new headline that forces the market way up or way down. It's been a very volatile market over the last few months, and that certainly can make for some emotional reactions when it comes to money. Now, I do want to kind of frame this again, going back to the way we view investing, right? We focus on looking over much longer periods of time, 5, 10. I mean, investing is a lifelong journey, right? It's something you need to do all of your life and ultimately to reach your goals. And most people invest because they want to be able to retire and be financially stable. You look at the market today, it's down. The S&P 500 is down 1.78% this year as of market close today. Now, if you stretch that out and you actually look over the last 10 years, well, over the last 10 years, the S&P is up 176%. And that just continues. When you stretch those timelines out farther and farther, right, you see the trend. I mean, it goes up and to the right. And that's what we want to see as investors. But it does make for some emotional reactions in the near term, particularly in such volatile times. And I don't think that is necessarily set to change. I mean, we have an administration right now, President Trump, he's doing things on the daily. And I mean, the theme of 2025 thus far has been tariffs. And that is something that seems to change daily. But it's important to remember tariffs are a negotiating tool. It's not like we're trying to set these tariffs so that the cost of everybody's living goes up. This is ultimately trying to make for a fairer trade environment. And so I think that's important to keep in mind. But it absolutely has been a very volatile time here over the last few months.
Elon Musk weighed in on the stock market recently, and I don't have the tweets in front of me, so I'm going to paraphrase them for you as best I can. He essentially said the stock market goes up, the stock market goes down. It's down a little bit right now. It'll be back up. Don't worry about it. Our economy is healthy. We're making some big changes right now in Washington to get our house in order for long-term success and long-term profitability. Do you believe him?
Yes, I think he's right. Just directionally speaking, the stock market goes up and it goes down on any given day. We can't really pay attention to the daily machinations in the market there. The one thing I will push back a little bit on, I think it's a little bit questionable right now, just in regard to the economy. And I'm not sitting here telling you the economy is in a bad place, but I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and I think that is creating some trepidation on the part of consumers. And that then flows through our entire economy because, really consumers drive the economy for the most part. And, if you look at the Fed's most recent meeting, I saw a quote here recently, the Chicago Federal Reserve president, his name is Austin Goolsbee, and he said, while he still sees interest rate cuts in the cards, you're seeing risks rising to that outlook, right? I think a lot of people are kind of waiting for some cuts to come in so that these interest rates pull back down a little bit. That'll free housing up, and that absolutely frees up more spending. But in the most recent Fed meeting, they didn't paint the rosiest picture, right? They do absolutely see some trouble on the horizon there in regard to consumer spending, unemployment. A lot of companies are just kind of sitting still right now, not making big decisions on things like capital expenditures and expanding and growing because they don't really know what the business environment ultimately is going to look like. Now, my bet is midway through this year, maybe towards the back half of the year, we'll definitely get a little bit of a better idea. And I think it'll ultimately be a good thing. But, it's worth noting, the Atlanta Fed right now, the current GDP estimate for quarter one, which is getting ready to end here at the end of March, right, is negative 1.8%, right? That's contraction. And we know the technical definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of contraction. So if we do end up seeing the first quarter of this year contracting and that negative 1.8 number sticks, though it's worth noting it was a lot higher just a few weeks ago, then I think we start to ask some questions as to what does the second quarter look like? Will that bring a recession? And then further, ultimately, what does a recession mean in regard to economic activity? So I think there's a little bit more uncertainty just in regard to the economy right now. But generally speaking, it's still not bad. People are spending money; they're getting out there and doing things. But it's I think in the near term we can just expect more volatility. It'll be uncertain. That makes it difficult when you're investing your money in that type of environment. But by the same token, looking further out, as we always do, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so I think you have to keep on doing what you're doing. And it's also worth remembering, too, when you're investing, and most people, I think, investing takes the form of a contribution to your 401k from your paycheck every 2 weeks or twice a month or however you get paid, right? Most people are just investing by just having that automatically deposited in their 401k into an index fund that covers the broader market. And the reason why that works so well, number one, it takes the thinking out of it, kind of just is automatic. But you're investing in good times and you're also investing in bad times. And when you're investing in bad times, it can sound scary because we're saying they're bad times, but you have to remember too that you're getting proven assets really at a discount. And so that is always something to keep in mind. Even when times are a little bit tougher, you still invest and you're getting those assets at a cheaper price, which then ultimately plays out in your favor as time goes on. And that's why, that's the dollar cost averaging strategy that we think just works so well. And we certainly recommend folks follow that. If you have a job and they offer some type of a retirement plan, you got to make sure you participate in that. And you just have to automate it. Make sure that that money is coming out of your paycheck every month, going directly into that account, and just keep it simple. Invest in something like an S&P 500 index fund that's going to give you broad coverage to 500 of the most important companies in the world. You'll buy at higher prices, but you'll also buy at lower prices. And as time goes on, it really works out well in the investor's favor.
Let's go back to what you said earlier about this being a marathon and not a sprint. Let's say that the new administration, the Trump administration, is successful at solving one of these big problems that they're tackling. They solve immigration, or they get Medicare or Social Security on firm financial footing, and they cut out the waste, fraud, and abuse. Something along those lines. How much does that help the economy, the stock market in the long term if they were able to check some of those boxes and fix some of those long-term structural problems?
Oh, I think it helps tremendously. I mean, I know that Doge right now is a point of contention for some people. I mean, I guess I understand from the perspective that maybe they feel like they could be doing it differently and maybe a little bit more diplomatically. But I mean, I just don't know anybody who isn't in favor of a more efficient government and spending our money wisely and just cutting the fraud, the waste, the abuse. I mean, that just seems logical, right? We run our lives that way. Why wouldn't we want to run our country that way? And then ultimately, if we get to that point, like you were saying, where we have problems solved, well, then that's certainty, right? And there's the old saying is the market hates uncertainty, but certainty it sure does like. And so once we see sort of these headline-driven events that we're witnessing on a daily basis here, if we can see some of these things start to get resolved, I think that offers a lot of certainty. And that certainty will absolutely play out not only for investors, but for consumers. You'll see more certainty. People will feel more comfortable about making commitments, spending. If we see those interest rates start to come down a little bit, that absolutely will have an impact on the housing market in a positive way. And so, yeah, I think that's something we'll have to just continue to follow. But yeah, they're going through, I think, a rough patch right now because, it's you look at the headline. I mean, there seems to be a lot of waste, fraud, abuse out there, and someone's got to get in there and solve this. And so, I absolutely respect this administration's efforts in trying to do this. Yeah, I understand. We can have the discussion if you feel like they should be doing it differently or more diplomatically. But the bottom line is you've got to get stuff done, and that's what this administration is really focused on. And if they start getting stuff done, we see more certainty come into play here. That's going to have a positive impact all the way around.
Where are we right now on inflation? And I say that because just anecdotally, I was helping a friend get an airline ticket. It seemed like the airline ticket prices are starting to come down. Hotel prices seem to be coming down. You go to the grocery store, eggs aren't continuing to go up into the stratosphere like they used to. Are we now finally getting a handle on inflation?
I think we're starting to, yeah. It's definitely in a point, again, I kind of go back to that word uncertainty, and I think a lot of that is because of all of the tariff talk, because tariffs absolutely can contribute to inflation. I mean, you got to think, we import close to $4 trillion annually here in the United States, and in Mexico and Canada combined are close to 30% of that. I mean, so that is something that we'll need to continue to focus on, but it does feel like inflation is starting to be held in check, and it's not quite to that 2% target that they kind of aim for, but it's absolutely better than it has been, and we'll just want to make sure we can see that trend continue. Again, I think there are some folks out there that would say they don't believe that we're fully there yet, and they see the potential for inflation to start ramping back up again if all of these tariffs take hold and stick for a long period of time. And that's absolutely possible. It could happen. I don't think it will, because again, I think tariffs really more than anything are a negotiating tool, and that's what he's using these for. But it's good to see that inflation is starting to come back in check, and it has a little bit further to go, but we're getting there.
At the state and the municipal level, at least here in California, we're starting to blow our budgets again, where the city of Los Angeles just announced that they're $1 billion in the hole. And instead of looking to austerity, the mayor said that she's going to go, or she did go, to Sacramento to ask the state for more money. She's using the fires as the excuse, but if you look at what she's actually asking for, she wants money to make the city's budget whole for items that have nothing to do with the fires because she doesn't want to make any cuts at the city level. At the state level, Gavin Newsom was just in Washington, D.C., hoping to shake a few more nickels out of Donald Trump because, as it turns out, Medi-Cal is $7 billion in the hole, more than it was projected to be. So the state of California is also having some budgetary problems. How big of an issue could that be for our economy and the market?
Well, I think that really speaks to, at the federal level, what this administration's trying to do and sort of balancing the books again, or at least trying to get rid of the waste and the fraud and the abuse. Because any which way you cut it, from the state level to the federal level, I mean, it's just there, right? I mean, when you have an organization as large as the federal government supporting 300 plus million people, I mean, stuff slips through the cracks. But bottom line is, when you have states, when you have municipalities that are missing their budgets by such large numbers, I mean, the only way to really accommodate for that is you either have to figure out a way to bring more revenue in, right? And ultimately that comes in the form of taxes, more red tape, and squeezing more money out of the American consumer. Or you figure out ways to cut out unnecessary programs, unnecessary spending, and that unfortunately becomes a very politically charged conversation that folks have a lot of strong opinions on, of course. But you just really have to it kind of takes me back to that old grade school lesson, right? Wants versus needs. And what is the government really there to do, right? We want to provide these needs, right? And then the wants kind of take a back seat when you can't really make the numbers work. And right now, I think we need to be focusing more on the needs and less on the wants. But ultimately, yeah, when those numbers start getting out of control like that, it can put states and municipalities in a very tough spot. And I think that what we've seen with this administration, at least, is that they are not going to just cut blank checks to help states meet their numbers, right? I mean, you got to get in there, and sometimes you got to make unpopular decisions, and that is a requisite of the politician's job, and that obviously varies state to state, but there it does seem in California, and I don't live in California, I live in Virginia, of course, but it does seem like a lot of excessive spending out there, and I think that there are a number of reasons for that, right? I mean, we've been having this border conversation for a long time now, and I think that's something that really has contributed to a lot of problems. But yeah, it's something where they're going to have to figure out either a way to bring more money in, or they're going to have to figure out a way to cut out the unnecessary spending. And I think most of us, I don't know about you, John, I respect taxes. I want to pay my fair share, but I certainly don't like seeing my taxes go up, particularly when it's going to things that I don't like. I don't want my money to be spent on. And so it probably would behoove them to figure out ways to cut out the unnecessary spending and just become a little bit more efficient.
You and me both, brother. Jason Moser, analyst at the Motley Fool. You can get him online at fool.com. And this is his first appearance on the program with his new Twitter handle, Conviction Hold. So make sure you check him out there on X. Jason, thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, it was great catching up, John. Thank you.
If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And if you want to listen to the podcast after we sign off at 3, Randy, that's easy to do.
Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. I guarantee you're going to have a great time listening to our show, because even though you feel like you might be missing out on other podcasts by listening to our podcast, it turns out that you're not, because sometimes we talk about other podcasts like Pam Price.
She called me a crime boss.
And right now, Randy, it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter. And this edition of the blotter could result in you writing the MTA.
In Folsom, in Sacramento County, someone is stealing all of the wheels.
How about on the bus? Because the wheels on the bus go round and round, and Janice Hahn loves the bus driver.
Janice Hahn does love the bus driver. But in Folsom, they're stealing all the wheels on the cars and leaving them on cinder blocks.
Can you imagine having lunch and going out to the parking lot to see your car and it's on 4 cinder blocks?
For more, here is CBS in Sacramento.
Tires targeted, thieves going after all 4 wheels on cars across Sacramento County.
Might as well break in the back and get the spare.
Take 5 tires.
Thanks for staying with us here at 5:30. I'm Hunter Sowards.
And I'm Marley Ginter. Your reporter covering Sacramento County, Tori Apodaca, joining us live now from the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, learning more and getting answers on what you can do to protect your car. What a mess, Tori.
It truly is, Marley and Hunter. From Folsom to Fair Oaks, we're learning of people getting hit by these tire thieves. Of course,
Not just the tires, they're stealing everything.
These cars look naked when you see the picture of them.
Of course, we've heard of catalytic converters getting stolen, but all 4 wheels of a car, it's more shocking to see.
I got to tell you, when you see the images of this, nothing looks more like blight on a street than a car that's on cinder blocks.
Do you remember a story when Jerry Brown was mayor of Oakland and he went on some international trip to China, I think it was? He came back to his house with his wife in the car, and there was a reporter who was with them because they were covering the China trip. And as they pulled around a turn and got close to his house, they noticed that his car was on 4 cinder blocks. Someone stole the mayor's tires and wheels.
A tireless Toyota Camry sitting on cinder blocks.
Less than 2 minutes, they were gone.
All 4 wheels were taken from Ratish Chaund's brand new car in the middle of the night while it was parked at his Fair Oaks apartment.
It's somebody who knows what they're doing.
Between trying to get someone to tow the car to looky-loos.
Yeah, what exactly do you do when the car's on blocks?
Can you imagine the way people must be looking at you when you're standing there next to that car?
To looky-loos.
They just stand and laugh and take pictures and go.
Chaund said
They laughed at him. They took pictures of it. How dare they?
Rude.
This man's the victim of a crime. And it's not like he went out and bought some flashy car that you know is going to get stolen. This is a Toyota Camry.
That man's not having a good year.
Chaund says
He doesn't have Goodyear tires either.
Nope, he used to.
Chaund says it's been a headache to deal with.
If you would have mentioned this to me, that it happened to someone else, I wouldn't believe you. Like, it just seems like totally off the wall.
The same thing happened to Samantha Worthington's car at her apartment complex in Folsom.
Yeah, I just kind of felt horrified, which seems like a really traumatic.
There is one thread in this story. This is what happens when you move into a building that has no parking.
Her name is Worthington?
Yes.
I wonder if Cal's her father. Didn't he father children into his 90s?
It's definitely possible.
And I think he's from the Sacramento area originally.
Go see Cal, go see Cal, go see Cal.
Well, apparently her mother did.
Yeah, I just kind of felt horrified, which seems like a really traumatic word to use, but that's really how we felt.
2 cars here had all 4 wheels stolen the same night. And staff at the complex tells us police say Toyotas and Hondas are being targeted.
I understand the value in a Calico.
All the Kias and Hyundais already got stolen.
Oh, long ago. They're all in Oakland.
So if you want to steal tires, you got to move on to Toyota and Honda.
I understand the value in a Calico converter, but the trouble to go through and take somebody's wheels, I don't see a lot of value in wheels.
Yeah, what exactly is the plan here? Are you going up to Soma? Are you selling the tires? Are you can you recycle rubber? What are you getting for the tires?
What's gone wrong with the world where they're treating someone else's tires and wheels as if it's hotel shampoo?
We met with these 2 mechanics at ER Auto Repair in Fair Oaks, who had some advice on how to protect your wheels and tires.
Noise brings attention, and they don't like that. They usually get up and run from that.
They recommend getting wheel locks to slow down thieves and installing a motion detector.
Wheel locks are a great thing to have, but just make sure you know where the wheel lock key is if you take your car to the tire shop.
You notice they want us to put locks on the wheels. They want us to put motion detectors. They want us to put a cage under the car so they can't steal the catalytic converters. We're willing to do everything except throw the bad guys in jail. Idiots.
And installing a motion detector device inside the car or a vibration detector underneath, both of which will sound alarms.
I really hope that this is not something that anybody else has to go through.
Worthington says her insurance covered these new wheels.
Oh, that's a bad idea.
Oh, because then she's going to get dropped?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have no car right now. It's just so frustrating.
But Chond worries even if he replaces his, the tire thieves could strike again.
Now we are thinking why we even bought this car.
I mean, as long as he's street parking in Folsom, he's open to this happening again.
Well, he better buy some walking shoes.
Could have bought something else.
The Sacramento County Sheriff's Office here is investigating these cases. Folsom PD, though, did just get back to me within this past hour and says that it has received multiple reports of wheels getting stolen off of parked cars. It couldn't tell me how many or any other details about the investigation, but I did check on the crime logs for the city of Folsom, and it appears that at least 4 cars have had their wheels stolen off of them in the past 30 days.
That's 16 tires.
I'm telling you, get that man some Air Jordans. He'll be prepared the next time they steal his wheels and his tires, and who knows, he may even win the Calcutta Marathon. And it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter. And Randy, this edition left one business uninsurable.
It was a check cashing place in South L.A., and they got burglarized for the second time in 2 years.
No insurance for you.
For more, let's go to Fox 11 News.
The business owner says he can't take it anymore after his family's business was broken into yet again, the third time in 2 years. Fox 11's Christopher Harlow is live in South LA with.
I guess they're doing the construction right now.
What, are they stealing a catalytic converter right during the live shot?
That's them trying to fix the door.
Oh.
Fox 11's Christopher Harlow is live in South LA with. Very loud out there. Christy, go ahead.
They cut to her at just the right time.
It's like me with the gardeners when I'm in the desert.
It is very loud, and that's because there is extensive damage, and you'll see why in just a minute. But this is one more setback for a small business that's already really...
They couldn't take 5 during the live shot?
No. Maybe they were trying to be quiet, and then somebody accidentally knocked something over.
A minute, but this is one more setback for a small business that's already reeling. They specialize...
They're not stopping for Christy Fajardo.
No, they're not.
In international wire transfers, and they say because of the recent ICE raids and layoffs, business has been down about 40% since January. And now this.
Okay, that's an even more interesting wrinkle to this story.
So what? It's people who are here illegally that are the ones using these check cashing places?
Yes, because this is where you Western Union all the money to Mexico or Honduras or what have you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, they're all going to go under.
Business has been down about...
So it wasn't the car break-in, or it wasn't the business break-in that necessarily led this guy to want to go out of business.
No, they have multiple problems.
Business has been down about 40% since January. And now this.
They weren't able to take anything, luckily. Mostly it was just damage that was done.
Hugo Gomez says his heart sank when he got the call from the LAPD about this. At about 3 a.m., neighbors heard the commotion and thought it was a car crash, but it was actually 2 burglars ramming a van into Go Plus check cashing in South LA.
What a name.
Go Plus check cashing?
Yes.
They all have completely ridiculous names. It's like the massage parlors and the faux places.
I do like Califobulous.
I like Unforgettable.
What does that do to a small business?
Oh, man. A lot.
It's hard to recover.
Yeah.
Boy, even the recorded part of this piece, you can't hear anything.
No.
Hard to recover because the damage to the business on the 2100 block of South San Pedro is estimated to be in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands of dollars because crashing a van into a business does a lot more damage than crashing a Kia.
Isn't that what they charge you, though, if you get one advance on your payday check?
Well, there is that. Remember when the city of Norwalk was banning the construction of any places like this and homeless shelters? Who do you think was more embarrassed to be lumped together, the homeless shelter or the check cashing guy?
It's a strange marriage, isn't it?
And after previous thefts, Gomez says no one will insure them.
Oh, boy.
Imagine knocking on the door of State Farm. I don't even think Adriana would take this call.
They probably have posters for Adriana and Veronica inside the check cashing place, and they won't insure them.
Oh, I can only imagine what the wall art looks like inside this joint.
This is probably the third time within the past 2 years. That's the time that we called our insurance and made a claim. They paid just damages, which was like $2,000 in damages they paid. And right after that, they canceled our policy.
The family has owned the business for 17 years. They say they no longer keep cash here after hours, and they've upgraded alarms and security systems. But the criminals keep coming.
We do everything we can. Unfortunately, you cover one hole and they open another one.
Now they fear this could be the final nail on their father's dream. He worked at a nearby store for 20 years, saving his pennies so he could serve the immigrant community in South LA.
Wait, his dream was to open a check cashing place?
Okay, I've officially heard it all.
His dream was to open up a store where they take a little cut of everyone's check and you can send money to your family in a different country.
That's the American dream, Randy.
Cashing checks and wiring money to families in China, Latin America, and beyond.
And of course, now that illegal immigration is being enforced, no one's coming.
What percentage of their wires do you think involved illegal activity?
100%. Very few people in 2025 are using Western Union for legitimate purposes.
No, I'm trying to think of a reason. Well, I guess you're in the country illegally, so that's a crime. So if you're sending money back, that would technically be illegal, remittances. And then if you're doing something that's totally illegal, like drugs or human trafficking, things of that nature, and you need to get money from one country to the next, I would imagine that you could use a service like this. But it's not like what you see in the ads where your kid is on a spring break vacation and they forget their cash. Their wallet gets stolen.
You got Venmo for that now. If you're using Western Union in 2025, it's for something shady.
Now they're hoping a GoFundMe will raise enough to keep their dad's store open.
They're raising a GoFundMe to keep the check cashing place open because this was their father's dream.
Who is going to give to that GoFundMe? We've been gouging the community for 30 years. Please donate to our GoFundMe.
Because they say this time, his grit and determination won't be enough.
We're out here trying to help the community.
I totally understand wanting to come to this country and open up a bakery, wanting to open up a specific business. Maybe you're a tailor. Whose big American dream is a check cashing place or a bodega with an ATM?
We're out here trying to help the community. A lot of people in the neighborhoods rely on us, cash their checks or send their money to their loved ones.
Yes, those are people that aren't authorized to work in the country legally. Because the rest of us use banks.
Well, you're not going to have them to ram your van through the front door again.
I know we don't like to blame the victim here, but
I think this is the first time we've heard of a van being involved in one of these.
All the Kias are gone.
So now I guess they're using vans as the battering rams. All right, that's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow at noon right here on The John Phillips Show.